and welcome to a very special edition of The Watchman. The images never leave me, and my reaction is always the same. Every time I see footage and pictures from the Holocaust, I am shaken to my core. 6 million Jews systematically slaughtered by Nazi Germany, a nation that claimed to be the most civilized and cultured in all the world. You'd think the unspeakable horror of the Holocaust would be a wake-up call to the world. But the world has a very short memory. And if there is one constant in world history, it's this: hatred and persecution of God's chosen people, the Jewish people. There are some today that deny that the Holocaust ever happened. We have entire nations like Iran and lethal terror groups like Hamas and Hezbollah that openly call for a new Holocaust and vow to finish what Hitler started. And so, the evil continues. And it's not just coming from an extremist fringe. We have the UN denying the Jewish claim to Jerusalem and the Temple Mount. We have a growing movement called BDS that seeks to boycott Jewish goods and businesses, just as the Nazis did in the run-up to the Holocaust. Folks, anti-Semitism today is at levels unseen since the Holocaust. And while the world looks the other way, history threatens to repeat itself. That's why our shows these next 2 weeks are so important. We're joined by Irving Roth, a Holocaust survivor who, as a teenager, lived through the hell of Auschwitz and Buchenwald, where he saw family members and close friends murdered by the Nazi killing machine. Today, Irving is an internationally recognized author and educator, and our team at Christians United for Israel is honored to have him speak at our events across the country. Irving Roth is one of the most amazing men I have ever met, and after hearing him tell his life story, I think you'll agree. Today is part one of a two-part series here on The Watchman with Holocaust survivor Irving Roth. Take a look. Well, Irving, thanks so much for joining us here on The Watchman and bringing us into your beautiful home.
My pleasure.
You do so much work with us at Christians United for Israel, and I've heard your story many times, and it's a privilege today to bring it to our viewers here on The Watchman. I want to ask you, first of all, how could something like the Holocaust, the heinous, premeditated murder of millions of people, how does that happen in the 20th century, in such a supposedly cultured society, no less?
It has to do with demonization. You take a group, you blame it for every problem, which is wonderful because this way no one is responsible. So you blame it on a group and you say how evil they are, they're the cause, and therefore we can do something. I experienced that demonization. I lived in a country called Czechoslovakia, which is a democracy. I started my life in a school, totally integrated school. I live in a town of 7,000 people. 1/3 of the population is Jewish. There's integration. There are no sections where Jews live or Catholics or Protestants. I'm 6 years old, I start school, I'm 7 years old. The world is a beautiful place. In the summertime, I play in the park, I go to the beach, I have friends, I play soccer, I do all the things that children do. I don't understand what's going on in 1935 when I start school. Because by 1935, Germany has become a Nazi country, by the way, elected by the people of Germany, through the vote, through the ballot. And they persecute Jews. I don't really know that because it doesn't really concern me. My world is a much smaller world. But all this changes. By 1938, Germany begins to expand. Part of Czechoslovakia is gone, with the promise to the world, that's all they want, Sudetenland, a small piece of Czechoslovakia.
And the world gave them Sudetenland.
And the world gave them, and the Prime Minister arrives in London with a piece of paper, waving it. We have achieved peace in our time. Mr. Hitler and I have agreed, and here is a piece of paper. And so, by March of 1939, there is no Czechoslovakia. Now I live in a new country, same house, same city, a new country called Slovakia, which takes on all the characteristics of Germany with respect to the Jews. So here I am, almost 10 years old. It's the summer of 1939. One morning I get up and going to meet my friends in the park. There's a sign, Jews and dogs are forbidden to enter.
Jews and dogs.
Yes. Day before, I went playing there. But I can't do that anymore. That afternoon, I'm going to meet my friends at the beach. I can't go in because I am a Jew. First, small things like you can't go into the park, you can't go to the beach. But the next thing is you have to be identified as a Jew on the street. So you must wear a yellow star. Then along come a bunch of laws relating to things that Jews must not have, such as luxuries. By definition, gold jewelry is a luxury. Jews mustn't have it. Therefore, if you're a Jew, you have gold jewelry, you must deliver it to the police department. Radio is a luxury. You have to deliver it to the police department. And of course, as time goes on, worse things happen. In 1942, January 20th, that's the date that Germany decided that they're going to figure out how to murder all the Jews quickly and efficiently. And of course, that begins the process of murder and building these gas chambers and crematoria. By the summer of 1942, they're ready. So in my town in Slovakia, in the middle of the summer, 90% of the Jews are picked up in the middle of the night, put into a synagogue, which is not air-conditioned, which has no toilets, which has no running water, squeezed together, no place to sit, for a day and a half. Next day, they're marched to the train station, stuffed into cattle cars, and disappear. We're not sure what's going to happen to us. My father, because he was still running somebody's business, someone who took away my father's business from him. He was now the manager. But all the profits went to this wonderful friend, Albert.
Friend. And Irving, in your great book, BONDI'S Brother, you talk about, and one of the things that disturbed me to my core in reading is Albert, who was a neighbor who took over your father's business. The people who helped round up the Jews in your town, these were neighbors of yours. You lived side by side with these people for years.
Because people sometimes think, well, Hitler did it. Hitler never went to anybody's house. When I speak of the Einsatzgruppen and special units who did the murdering of the Jews, who were they? They were ordinary men. In fact, there's a book by that name, by Christopher Browning. Look at the names. They're ordinary people. They're doctors and lawyers and teachers and farmers and pharmacists who are part of this group who got the Jews in Eastern Europe, took them from their home to a ravine or into the forest and machine gunned them. Not the enemy of the Third Reich, because after all, some of them are 3-day-old children. How you do that? You do that very simply by looking at this child, this infant, say, he is my enemy. It's his fault that I don't have a job. I don't have a Mercedes-Benz. Propaganda and the demonization comes together and people believe it.
Up next, more of Irving Roth's incredible story of survival during the Holocaust. Plus, he describes how the demonization of Jews continues today. That's next on The Watchman, only right here on TBN.